So Donkey Kong Bonanza is right around the corner, and I've spent the past several weeks combing over footage and just generally being really excited for the first new DK game in 11 years. And up until very recently, I hadn't really stopped to think to myself, what happens next? What is going to happen to the DK series after Bonanza releases? Now you might be thinking, Al, you finally got that new DK game that you've been bitching about for years. Can't you just be happy and enjoy it while it's here? And, well, two things about that. For one, it's kind of my job to ask these questions, but for another thing, I am incredibly satisfied and excited with Bonanza. As a matter of fact, Donkey Kong Bonanza is seriously shaping up to be my dream Donkey Kong game. I mean, I have a digital footprint out there for my Donkey Kong coverage over the last several years. I have a track record with my wish list for this game, and they're really just ticking all the boxes. Finally. After all this time, 11 years since the last DK game, and significantly longer than that since the last 3D DK game. And here we are, we're finally getting a big, bold, ambitious, new 3D Donkey Kong game. There are several tiers to this, because I knew that a 3D game, especially one as ambitious looking as Bonanza is shaping up to be, would be much more of a crowd pleaser. It would draw a much bigger audience than just another 2D Donkey Kong game. The 2D games are absolutely fantastic. The country games are the reason that I'm a gamer to this day, you know? Donkey Kong Country was one of my very first games. But there's no denying the appeal of 3D games, and especially in Donkey Kong's case, it's been so long that another 3D game was sure to light the world on fire. So now we have an iteration of Donkey Kong that's going to appeal to the masses and put this series, this brand, on a whole new level. Nintendo is treating this game and just the Donkey Kong brand in general with a level of importance that we haven't seen since the Super Nintendo days. But not only is it big and new and ambitious, but it also honors what came before in this series. I mean, we have so many references and nods to the lore of the DK series in Bonanza, with plenty more surely to come. The truth is that if Donkey Kong Bonanza is the last Donkey Kong game that we ever see, then I'm gonna be okay with that. I've waited for a long time for this, man. I don't really want to spend the rest of my career, the rest of my YouTube days just sitting around waiting for more Donkey Kong games, you know? I am basking in this lead up to Bonanza, and I'm making the most of it right now. And I am going to really just cherish this time. I'm going to look forward to playing Bonanza, and when it comes out, I hope I'm gonna love it. But I think that's where my Kong coping is gonna end, you know? And whatever happens from that point forward is just what happens. But Bonanza's the game that I've been waiting for, and that is going to just be perfect for me. So with all that said, what the heck's happening next? It's just something that, you know, is interesting to think about. Because I don't believe that Bonanza is gonna be the final Donkey Kong game. I honestly think this is just the start of a whole brand new era for DK games, and we might even see a couple of them come out on the Switch too at this point, you know? This is a brand revitalization that we are witnessing here in real time, okay? And it's been leading up to this for years on end now. Donkey Kong had a major leading role in the Super Mario Brothers movie. I mean, you don't really get a bigger stage than that. He's got his own theme park now. I mean, what the heck? It's merchandise. It's just like DKs everywhere at the moment. Now we got Bonanza, and he's got a whole brand new design. Like, this is the version of DK that a whole new generation is gonna grow up with now. It's exciting. It's an exciting time to be a fan of Donkey Kong because he's being treated very well right now, and so are we as the fans. And I don't think it's gonna stop here. So what could possibly happen next? Let's dig into that a little bit. So I guess I'll kick this off with a question that's on pretty much every Donkey Kong fan's mind right now. Where the heck is Diddy Kong? What's going on? What's happening there, man? We just got Diddy Kong back in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, like, what, a year or two ago? And prior to that, he was in Mario Kart Tour. No! Diddy Kong's appearances have become increasingly more sporadic over the years in the Mario spin-off games. He used to be a lot more of like a common character, one that you could expect to see in just about any game that, you know, that Donkey Kong was in. Something's definitely changed there, and he's not in Mario Kart World that we've seen so far, and he's not in Donkey Kong Bonanza that we've seen so far. I think there's a decent chance that Diddy Kong is probably not too far off, you know, maybe they're just holding him back for Donkey Kong Bonanza right now, but let's explore the possibility that maybe he won't be. Maybe Diddy Kong isn't gonna be in Mario Kart or Donkey Kong Bonanza. So what the heck's going on with Diddy Kong? Well, here's kind of what I'm thinking. You see, Donkey Kong Bonanza is gonna be one of those types of games that we get like once every 10 years. Nintendo doesn't just crank out games with this level of ambition from the same series just every couple of years, you know? It's been 8 years since Mario Odyssey. There hasn't been a new 3D Mario since then. It's safe to assume that Bonanza is probably gonna be the last DK game of this caliber that we see for a while. And that's fine. I also have a bit of a suspicion that it might just be a bit too soon for a new 2D Donkey Kong game to go along with it. I mean, the only studio out there in recent times being 11 years ago, that has worked on a 2D Donkey Kong game was Retro Studios. They have their hands full with Metroid Prime 4 right now. Now, it's entirely possible that maybe they also have another project going on behind the scenes. Maybe they are working on a new Donkey Kong game while they're working on Metroid Prime 4. Who knows? But considering they've had a bit of a rocky road since Tropical Freeze released, I'd imagine they're probably all hands on deck finishing up Metroid Prime 4 at the moment. So with a 3D game off the table for another 10 years, potentially, and another 2D game looking a bit unlikely in the near future, I think it probably makes sense for there to be a new Donkey Kong spin-off game, potentially sometime in the next 2 or 3 years following Bonanza. And honestly, with no Diddy Kong in Mario Kart or Bonanza, what better way would there be for Donkey Kong to enter the spin-off space again than with a new Diddy Kong racing? Now I know what you're thinking. Ow, they've got Mario Kart on the way and Kirby Air Ride. I mean, those are already 2 racing games. Do we really need another racing game to come out on the Switch too? Yes. Honestly, I think Kirby Air Ride is a good sign that Nintendo is still willing to sort of dip their toes into other racing games on their platform, because there's been this idea for a while now that, well, the reason that we don't get a new F-Zero or Diddy Kong Racing or Kirby Air Ride is because Nintendo has Mario Kart, and that's really the only racing game they need. But now we have Kirby Air Ride. Look, there's room. There's plenty of room for more racing games, okay? This is also a speculative video, so, I mean, it might not happen, but hard to say. And, you know, just think about this for a second, too. Nintendo has their Switch Online service, and for some reason, Donkey Kong 64 never made it to the NSO. And now here we are with Donkey Kong Bonanza. Diddy Kong Racing is also not on the Nintendo Switch Online right now. Now, both of those games were developed by Rareware, so I'm sure there probably is some sort of legal hurdle there to get the rights to be able to use those games on the online service. However, Nintendo has a bit of history now with working with Rare and Microsoft. We got Banjo and Smash a couple of years ago. The Banjo games are on the Switch Online service, as well as a couple of other Rare developed games. So you would think that like DK64 and Diddy Kong Racing would have been some of the first games that would have come to the service, right? I mean, like, they're Donkey Kong games. They would be important to have, or so you would think. I don't know, maybe this is just wishful thinking, but Diddy Kong Racing, man, I don't know. But now the big question would be, who could develop a new Diddy Kong Racing? Does Nintendo have anybody internally that would be able to handle this task? Or would they outsource it? Well, we do know that Nintendo is interested in outsourcing more of their properties to other studios to get games developed. And honestly, what we've seen of Bonanza so far, and the way that it just honors and revels in Rare's era of DK, you know, lots of references and nods and all that fun stuff. Think there's any possibility at all they could be reaching out to some OG DKC developers to get involved with the Donkey Kong brand again? I'm specifically taking a peek over at Playtonic Games over there. We know that they have multiple game projects in development. That much has been confirmed ever since it was announced that they were going to be partnering up with Tencent for some investments into their company. And here's something that I found interesting. Playtonic was one of the very first developers to announce a game for the Switch 2, like even before the Switch 2 reveal was official. They didn't outright refer to it as the Switch 2. They mention in their trailer that Yooka-Laylee, which is a remake slash remaster of the original Yooka-Laylee game, was coming to Nintendo. Just Nintendo. No mention of the Switch or Switch 2, and look, they got the little eyes that sit on top of that. They knew what they were doing, they were just teasing. But that indicates to me that, like, okay, so they've been developing for this thing for a while now. They've probably been in contact with Nintendo, and at the very least, were able to get their hands on, like, some sort of development kit, I would assume. I don't want to just, like, recklessly get people's hopes up and say, like, yes, look, Playtonic is working on a new video game for Nintendo. Like, let's not go that far with it. Better not see any fucking news headlines, okay? I'm coming from the perspective of a very passionate speculative fan, okay? That's it. But there's another interesting piece of information to go along with all this. There was a tweet posted back on March 30th. By the Twitter account Old School 3D Renders. It's just for Diddy Kong Racing, you know? Someone responded to them and said, love this game, still want a sequel. And Kevin Bayless, the character designer for Rare's Donkey Kong and Diddy Kong, replied to their tweet with a little winky face. Now, this could mean nothing, you know? I could be responsible and say that he's just, you know, he's just a little winking nod, you know? It's something he would like to see too. But then that wouldn't be a very fun video now, would it? So I'm gonna irresponsibly look into this. I'm gonna like create layers that might not even be there. Don't go harass this man, don't go harass anybody involved, okay? Like, look, again, I'm just speculating. Now let's look into that winking face, okay? So there's a few possibilities here. As I've established, Playtonic Games is working on Yooka-Laylee, and it is presumably coming to the Switch 2. Been in development for the Switch 2 for a little while now. Is it entirely possible, by chance, maybe, that Playtonic Games have been commissioned by Nintendo to make a Diddy Kong Racing sequel? My god, do you know how cool that would freaking be, man? Just getting the old band back together, you know? Some of the OG creators of Diddy Kong Racing getting involved and getting to work with their beloved Diddy again. I'm just saying, that would be so sick. That's probably the biggest way I could read into this, but there's a few other possibilities, you know? Or maybe Playtonic is making some sort of spiritual successor to Diddy Kong Racing in the form of, like, Yooka-Laylee Kart or something like that. Perhaps Kev Bayless has heard something about a sequel to Diddy Kong Racing. Or maybe it means nothing at all, you know? maybe he just likes Diddy Kong Racing and he's just acknowledging the message there and being like, yeah, I like Diddy Kong Racing too, I worked on that. I don't know, you know? It's a lot to read into. I'm just saying, you know, with Nintendo publicly stating that they do want to work with more studios with their properties, and I would imagine a fair bit of the people at Playtonic have, you know, a decent long-time relationship with Nintendo. I mean, a lot of these guys worked on Donkey Kong Country 30 years ago. Maybe it's not outside the realm of possibility, I don't know. And heck, you know, maybe it's not even Diddy Kong Racing. Maybe Diddy Kong Racing isn't the thing that they're doing. I mean, maybe they're not doing anything at all, but let's just say they are. Yooka-Laylee in the Impossible Lair was a really damn good 2D platformer. I mean, it honestly rivals the likes of Tropical Freeze. You can tell it has a little bit of a smaller budget than Tropical Freeze, but man, that game is good. If you guys are into Donkey Kong games and you haven't played Yooka-Laylee in the Impossible Lair, you gotta get it, man. You gotta get your hands on it. It has a super banging soundtrack by David Wise, too. It's so good. So I know for a fact that this team would be a good-ass team to put on a new 2D Donkey Kong game, you know? How cool would that be? Nintendo, if you listen to any words of mine, let it be this. Commission this team for Donkey Kong. Something with Donkey Kong. I can't speak for them, but I feel like they would love the opportunity to work on another Donkey Kong project of some sort. Anywho, Diddy Kong Racing aside, you know, Nintendo also has a really good working relationship with Koei Tecmo. Now, they've just really been churning out Hyrule Warriors games for Nintendo for the last couple of years. And me personally, I don't know, I'm kind of a little bit indifferent to the Warriors games at this point, but I feel like a part of that might just be because of Hyrule Warriors. I'm kind of over the Zelda side of this thing, and it might even just be more the Breath of the Wild style. I'm kind of like just over this era of Zelda. I'm ready to just move on to a new era with like new art style and new characters and stuff. But I mean, you know, how cool would it be to see Koei Tecmo take on like a different Nintendo IP? I mean, a Mario Warriors would be pretty cool. Kirby, there's like plenty of Kirby characters that would make for a pretty cool little game. But you know, with Donkey Kong Bonanza's emphasis on kind of this new combat style, I mean, DK's punching, he's throwing shit, he's just beating the shit out of everything. I could see Donkey Kong being a really cool fit for a Koei Tecmo game. I mean, imagine it, there's so many characters in the Donkey Kong universe that could work so well as playable characters for this thing. Just imagine fighting off waves, just hordes of Kremlings, these, like the whole Kremling crew. I could imagine that being a pretty cool little game, I gotta say. It would kind of fit in line with sort of where it looks like they're taking DK as a character and as a series. So anyway, yeah, I touched on the idea of a new 2D title a little bit. And while I'm kind of getting the feeling that a new 2D Donkey Kong game might be a little ways off yet, let's kick around some possibilities here. So like I mentioned earlier, Retro Studios is working on Metroid right now, so it's probably not super likely that they're tackling DK. But I also think that it's somewhat unlikely that they're gonna move on to just like a whole new original project after Metroid Prime 4. The unfortunate reality of Retro Studios is that they've had a bit of trouble for the last decade getting a game off the ground. There have been rumors and reports of games in development that have been canceled and scrapped. One of them very recently was leaked online. We got to see a bit of a working build from that. I just find it unlikely that they're gonna move on to a whole new original project after that. Nintendo is probably not too eager to greenlight anything brand new from them that doesn't involve one of their existing properties. So I do think DK is a potential candidate for them to move on to, and I'd be down for it. Retro's Donkey Kong Country games are fantastic. Returns, Tropical Freeze, like two of the best modern 2D platformers that money can buy, especially Tropical Freeze. I mean, it's right up there with Diddy's Conquest in my opinion. And I would love to see them get to finish their Donkey Kong Country trilogy. I think that would be really cool. But even if that's the case, that's gonna be years out. So let's just say, let's explore the possibility of another studio that could be cooking up a 2D Donkey Kong right now for all we know. There's another internal Nintendo division that I think could potentially be a decent candidate for such a thing, and that comes from the Mario Wonder team. I think that's one of their EPD studios as well. Don't quote me on that. But man, they did a fantastic job with Wonder. I really liked that game. And with Nintendo taking DK back and making him like a top internal brand priority to kind of keep things consistent with whatever direction they're taking Donkey Kong in, I could see that Mario Wonder team potentially cooking up a new DK. Again, this is sheer speculation. I have like nothing to back this up other than my own thoughts and opinions. And then of course there's Playtonic, which I think would also be another fantastic candidate to put on a 2D Donkey Kong game. If anybody gets Rare's DK, more than anybody, it's gonna be the original Rare DK developers, right? So there's another reality to explore here in a sense that, you know, it's very possible that Bonanza could just be the last Donkey Kong game that we see for a hot minute. And again, from a personal standpoint, that's okay with me. I'm looking forward to Bonanza, and like that'll just satisfy the Donkey Kong itch that I've had for a long time, I hope. I hope, but it's looking like it's probably going to. But that being said, I don't think that means they're gonna stop moving forward with the DK brand, so here's another interesting possibility. The Mario movie 2 comes out early next year, early 2026, I think. There have been rumors for a long time that there's gonna be a Donkey Kong movie with Illumination, and honestly, when you think about it, it kind of makes sense. Donkey Kong and Cranky Kong both played major roles in the first Mario movie, even more so than Luigi. A Mario Brothers movie that barely features the second brother, but Donkey Kong and Cranky Kong, they're there, and they're on a pedestal, man. I think they might have even had more screen time than Luigi. I could be wrong, I don't know, but they were definitely there a lot. So maybe after the Mario movie 2, they'll move on to Donkey Kong. Bonanza will have been out for a while by that point. They will have had the Donkey Kong Country Universal Parks open for a little while at this point. What better time would there be to strike with a Donkey Kong movie than now? I mean, or sometime in the near-ish future. I kind of get the feeling that a DK movie might even be more likely than another game in the next couple of years, you know? That kind of brings me to the end of this speculative little video here. I guess one other possibility could be that they do a sequel to Bonanza. I don't think that's as likely. I really don't think that's super likely at all, to be honest, at least not for a good while. But who's to say, you know? Crazier things have happened. Zelda got 2 big brand new 3D games on the Switch. Splatoon got 2 sequels on the Switch. Kirby got multiple games. Do I need to say anything about Mario? No. With Donkey Kong being positioned as one of the, like, premier titles for the launch period of the Switch 2, I don't know, man. I don't know. I got a good feeling. I think the future's bright for DK. I guess one other thought that crossed my mind that I probably should have mentioned way earlier in the video whenever I was talking about Mario Kart. Even if we don't get the Kongs in Mario Kart at launch, like, here's my thinking. Mario Kart, this new Mario Kart is probably going to be around for a while too. This is probably going to be another decade-long Mario Kart, and I have a feeling they're going to continue to add DLC to this game. Paid DLC, by the way. I don't think they're going to give it out for free. That's just not going to be a thing. But what better way for them to continue to promote Donkey Kong and steer more people towards Donkey Kong Bonanza than with a big Donkey Kong themed DLC pack? They could literally add DK Island as like a separate continent with multiple race courses to drive around on and a bunch of characters. Feels like a no-brainer to me, and it honestly, like, I think that's probably fairly likely. I'm gonna run down my wish list of characters just a little bit. I want Diddy Kong, and Dixie Kong, and Funky Kong, and Cranky Kong, and King K. Rool. And you want me to get a little wacky? Let's get a little wacky. Let's get a little dangerous. They're adding in a bunch of side characters like enemies and stuff as playable from the Mario roster of things. So how cool would it be if they added like some animal buddies as playable from Donkey Kong's camp, you know? We got like Rambi, and Winky, and Rattly, and Espresso. Sure, why not? Fuck it, throw them all out there. Professor Chops, throw a little retro DK love in there. Yeah, take it a step further. Donkey Kong Jr., how about that? Oh, ending this video on Mario Kart wasn't my intention, but, well, I forgot, so, well. What do you guys think? I mean, what do you think might happen with DK after Bonanza? I mean, do you think they're gonna put him back on ice? They're gonna shove DK back in the freezer? Or do you think there's a good chance that within the next 2 or 3 years we'll get something? Some other DK thing? What do you think? This was a long video. I had a lot more to say than I realized. Leave all your thoughts in the comments below. I'm gonna look forward to reading them. Oh, until we meet again. So long, bye-bye.